Hello and welcome to Ask Amanda Now. This is our short Friday afternoon session where I, Amanda Farmer, Strata lawyer, can answer one Strata question for you, chosen from the list of questions that I always get round about this time every week when I put the call out for questions. Do you have one? Do you have a Strata question that has been weighing on your mind, whether you are an owner, a committee member, a strata manager? I put the call out here on our Facebook page. We're also going out live to LinkedIn. We're going out live to YouTube as well. And as always, lots of questions in reply. We've had questions on the page, questions in my inbox, questions that have been sent to me by private message. I often get questions that say, Amanda, I don't want you to choose my question. I don't want you to feature this. I don't want this one to be aired, but I'd like you to answer it. So I get questions in all shapes and forms on a Friday, and I look forward to receiving them all. If you are here with me live this Friday afternoon, please feel free to drop me a hello. I can see those comments coming through on Facebook, on LinkedIn, coming through on YouTube as well. If you're catching the replay, then a special hello to you. Thanks for dropping on by. I have been traveling this week. Last night I was in Sydney attending our Women in Strata party. We had a fabulous evening at ESQ Bar at the QVB. There's a lot of acronyms there. So there should be in Strata. Some of you who tune in on Friday were there saying a special hello to me, letting me know how much you're enjoying the podcast, how much you're enjoying the Friday Live. I had a few people saying, Amanda, you're over on TikTok. We've seen you on TikTok. Every time I open up TikTok, there's Amanda giving me another Strata tip. Yes, your Strata property has ventured into the world of TikTok. Don't really quite know how that works over there, but we're learning. So if you're not following us on TikTok and you're there, or your kids are there, because I think that's where the kids are, then feel free to look us up. Your Strata property, Amanda Farmer, one of those names over on TikTok. We're on Instagram as well. Strata tips every few days coming across on those platforms. There's always lots to share and lots to learn. And that's why you're here. I know. I'm not seeing any hellos yet, but I can see you. I can see those eyeballs there live. If you would like to give me a hello, let me know how your week in Strata has been. I would love to see that. I have chosen one question from the many that we have received today after my call out. I choose questions that I think the answers to which will help most people in Strata, questions that others may have. Maybe they're on topic questions that we've been talking about these topics on Friday Live recently, or we've been talking about these topics on the podcast. Indeed, that is one of the questions, or the question I have chosen today is definitely on topic. It is a question from Amanda, and it is about insurance. Yes, we've been talking lots about insurance on live and on the podcast in the last couple of weeks. Amanda's question I have summarized as this: how do we ensure adequate building insurance cover, especially when owners are price sensitive and don't want premiums to increase? Now, that is my summary of Amanda's question. She gave us a little bit more background. I think the full question is here on the page. It sounds like Amanda is trying to convince her fellow owners in her building that they need to get a valuation for the building replacement cost in order to properly insure their building. And she's been trying to explain to owners what the risks are of being underinsured and not having adequate insurance cover. And she says that her fellow owners are price sensitive and they are unwilling to see the value in being adequately covered. So how do we send that message? How do we communicate with owners who may be feeling that way? Really great question. And no doubt at this time, there are many committee members, strata managers even, who are struggling with this, trying to explain to owners the importance of being properly insured. So what's the law behind this? Is there a part of our strata law that can help you, that you can rely on to be able to explain this to owners and to send this message, how important it is to be properly insured? My short answer is yes. We do have a legal framework, which I believe is very helpful, certainly very important when we're talking about building insurance in particular, and how that cover is calculated and why it has to be, I say has to be, pursuant to the law, set at a certain level. A couple of you coming in and saying hello to me here in the comments, which is excellent. Louisa is tuning in from LinkedIn. Lovely to have you with us, Louisa. And Louisa's saying, ooh, a couple of questions there from Louisa. How do we deal as brokers with situations where the owners contact us directly with complaints about strata managers that, in their opinion, do not look after the property properly? Interesting, Louisa. I might come back around to that one if I can. And do we have a responsibility towards the owners, especially if the strata manager is unresponsive? Yeah, very good question. I know that brokers in particular often find themselves in that position of being contacted directly by owners. And I can understand that you feel a little bit torn between how you are to respond directly to owners or to the strata manager or committee members. It can absolutely be a tough one. Jan is here saying hi. How you doing, Jan? If you're coming in live and you want to give me a hello, or if you're catching the replay, feel free to post me a hello here in the comments. Right now, however, I am going to answer Amanda's question. It's up here on the screen. How do we ensure adequate building insurance cover, especially when owners are price sensitive and don't want their premiums to increase? Well, I got some legislation that I believe will help you, Amanda. We do have a section in our New South Wales Strata Schemes Management Act. If we start with section 160, that's the section that requires an owner's corporation to insure the building. So you have to have insurance cover for the building. And I'm going to share with you now, not section 160, but section 161. That's the one that I want you to have a close look at. This is the one that I think is going to be quite helpful when trying to explain to other owners what your legal obligations are. I've said to you that you need to have insurance cover for your building, and section 161 tells you what the requirements for that cover are. So the damage policy says section 161 for the building must be with an approved insurer. It must be in the name of the owner's corporation, and it must provide for the following. The building must be insured for at least the amount determined in accordance with the regulations. I'm going to take you over to show you which regulation is relevant. If the building is destroyed, the building has to be rebuilt or replaced so that the condition of every part of the rebuilt or replacement building is not worse or less extensive than that part when new. So I'm not going to go through the whole list here, but this is an important section to have a look at. It's telling you what your building insurance must cover and the items that are to be taken into account when you're working out the limit of your cover. Here we've mentioned the amount determined in accordance with the regulations, section 161, subsection 1A. The relevant regulation is over here, Strata Schemes Management Regulation 39, how we calculate the insurance limit under the damage policy. So Regulation 39 tells us that for the purpose of section 161, the minimum amount, okay, and this is the message that I want you, Amanda, to be sending to your fellow owners. This is the minimum amount under the legislation, is to be not less than the amount calculated in accordance with subclause 2. So here we're told in subclause 2 that the amount to which the liability of an insurer may be limited under a damage policy is to be calculated by adding together the estimated costs of carrying out the work that a damage policy is required to provide for under section 161. Now, I've just told you, I'll flick back. Section 161 tells us that the building has to be rebuilt or replaced so that the condition of every part is no worse or less extensive than that part when new. We also have to cover expenses incurred in removing any debris. We have to remunerate any architects or people who are necessary to rebuild, replace, repair the building. So we have to be considering all of these costs when we're calculating what the limit of our damage policy is. And also, interestingly, you have to take into account what the increases in those expenses might be over the next 2 years, 24 months. That's what that says here. Think about any increase on those costs over the next 2 years. And we know that the costs of construction, building work, repair, replacement costs are increasing exponentially in recent times. Now, none of us, well, some of us watching might be, but I am not. I suspect, Amanda, you are not a qualified valuer, somebody who is experienced in working out what these replacement costs might be, what it might cost if your building suffered a devastating fire or some natural disaster that caused it to be significantly damaged or destroyed. What are these costs and how do we work out what these amounts are that meet the descriptions in our legislation? Well, what you need to do, and the legislation doesn't say this, but what you need to do is have a properly qualified, accredited valuer to carry out a valuation of your building so that you can comply with these provisions, which are fairly clear, fairly strict, that you need to insure your building for amounts that take into account all of these tasks that you may need to carry out, these people that you may need to pay if the building is damaged or destroyed. And the legislation doesn't say you have to get a valuation. The legislation doesn't say that you have to engage a certain type of qualified valuer. It used to say these things. The earlier iterations of our legislation said that owners corporations must obtain valuations for insurance purposes every few years. Doesn't say that anymore. I was asked recently in our member forum, Amanda, do we need to approve the obtaining of an insurance valuation at a general meeting, or can the Strata committee resolve to get an insurance valuation? And I said, there's nothing in our law, our New South Wales law at all, that requires you to get a valuation for insurance purposes. But as you've just seen, Section 161, Regulation 39, there are some very strict requirements for what your building insurance must cover. And you're not going to be able to work that out and work out what those amounts are unless you get a valuation. And that valuation should be done by someone who is qualified to do these types of valuations. Rena and I spoke about this on the podcast just a few weeks ago. Rena said that she had attended a forum that was run by Strata Community Insurance, SCI, and SCI has been recommending to managers that valuations for insurance purposes are actually now done each year because these costs are changing so frequently, increasing so fast. There's a real fear out there that there are many buildings that are underinsured because they do not have up-to-date building valuations. So, Amanda, in addressing your question, how do we send this message to owners that we need to get a valuation, and that once we've got that valuation, we need to make sure that we are insuring our building for at least that amount? And that valuation should be done, of course, taking into account the provisions of the legislation that I've just shared with you. How do I tell owners that that's what we should be doing? Well, my short answer is you tell owners that that's the law, that we have to be insuring our building to cover all of these requirements. That is a must. That is the legislation. And if we're not doing that, we're going to be in breach of the law. And in order to fulfill those legal obligations, we have to get that valuation and we have to comply with it. So if you can be sending that message to fellow owners that this is not just about you, Amanda, off on a whim, wanting to spend more money, wanting to ease your own mind so you can sleep at night. It's not at all about that. It is about complying with the law. And if you do have a professional strata manager who is working with you, I would hope that they are able to assist you in sending that message also. A few more of you coming in and saying hi. Hey, Petra, how are you? Amanda is here. I'm stuck in a meeting. Will this session be saved so I can watch it later? Yes, indeed, Amanda. Yes. So all of our Friday live sessions, our Ask Amanda Now sessions, you do have the replay available either on the Facebook page. You'll also see them on LinkedIn. You'll see them on YouTube. If you are part of our membership, one of the members inside our membership community, then you'll also get these videos saved to your member video library. So there is no risk of missing out, Amanda. Definitely come back and have a listen to this one and let me know how you go with your owners in sharing this message with them. Let me know how it's received. I often say that when you have this power of knowledge, when you have this access to the source information, this is why I share the legislation with you, to show you this is not just my view. This is not just your strata manager's view. You can share with your fellow committee members, with your owners. This is not just you being difficult. It's actually here in the law. When you have that knowledge, you have that confidence and that ability to take that back to your owners, to your neighbors, and to be able to explain to them why it is we have to make these important, if painful, decisions. Aidan's saying, surely obtaining a valuation and setting the sum insured doesn't require OC approval, just committee. If committee only and they decide against it, one might think there's an office bearer's exposure there. Yep. So you're right, Aidan. In terms of getting a valuation done, obtaining quotes from insurers, which will then have your sum insured and you'll have your premium there at the end of the day. Yes, the committee can do all of those things. You do, however, have to put that before the owners at a general meeting. Every annual general meeting needs to confirm the insurances. So at some point, these numbers, this decision is going before the owners. And I think that's where Amanda's coming from in saying, if we're going to increase our sum insured, which is ultimately going to be a higher premium, then at some point we're going to have to explain that to owners, and we're expecting that we're going to get some pushback for that. And some owners might be saying, why have we increased the sum insured? The premium's gone up so much, we didn't have to do that. We feel that we're overinsured. And the answer that Amanda can give to her fellow owners is, hey, because we have to. Under the legislation, we have to be insuring our building for that replacement cost, taking into account any demolition, any rubbish removal that might be needed, any professionals that might need to be engaged, and also taking into account what the increase in those costs might be over the next 2 years. All of that is there in the legislation. Louise is telling me in Victoria, the legislation requires evaluation every 5 years. Yep, that's good. I think a strata manager has been around for a little while here in New South Wales, might tell me if I'm wrong, but I think previously in New South Wales, under our 1996 legislation, it was a requirement every 3 years for evaluation. Not there anymore. And aside from those requirements as to what you have to cover and what your damage policy has to cover, no requirement for any particular professional to be carrying out that exercise of providing that estimate of coverage, which is interesting. I haven't gone back behind the legislation and had a look at what the policy might have been around opening that up or not requiring that valuation. Then there may be some policy, if not political reason around that one. Petra's saying, one of my co-owners does not talk to me anymore because I insisted not to compromise on the insurance. Yeah, fair enough. Sorry, not fair enough that they don't talk to you. Sorry, Petra. Fair enough that you didn't compromise. You didn't compromise on the insurance. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's never going to happen to you. Never going to that fire is never going to happen, and we're never going to have to replace the whole building. But when it does, you certainly want to make sure that you've got the right cover in place. Hey, Kareem, saying, thanks again for all of your wonderful insights. Thank you, Kareem. Having knowledge is a bit of a superpower. Yeah, it is. And if I can share that knowledge, that superpower with you here, then that is something that I love to do. So that is all we have time for today. Shorter session today for our Ask Amanda Now. I will be here next week for our Friday Live, I believe. Not quite sure where I'm going to be next week, but a Friday Live is due for you next week. All those who I know tune in and do ask questions, have sent questions through that I haven't chosen or haven't been able to answer for you today, the best place to get my eyes, my brain on your strata question is inside our online membership community. That's the place where you can post your questions in our forum. It is our huge strata knowledge library growing every day as I'm over there answering questions in writing for our members. If you are not a member of our online community, get on in here, come on over. The place to go is stratamembership.com. I would love to welcome you with us all on the inside and continue to support you there on your Strata journey. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this afternoon. Have a lovely weekend in Strata, and I will catch you all next time. Bye for now.